So ladies, hello again.
Hello.
Here we are for a book in a bottle and a dog, as it has now become. This evening's bottle is Monterey gin. Very nice, 1920s thing. We're having a cocktail called French 75, which is gin, champagne and lemon juice. And according to my card, this drink was incredibly popular in the 20s. But the story suggests that Dickens drank it. So there you go, very literary. Apparently it's refreshing and bright, just what you need to keep your wits about you whilst traipsing a country house trying to solve a murder. So that's lovely. And
it's delicious.
it's quite nice, isn't it? Might
It's
have a drink.
really good. I like the little curl.
Chin,
I like the glass.
chin. Yeah.
Any port in a storm, frankly.
So the book is Agatha Christie's Complete Secret Notebooks by a chap called John Curran. And basically it's an enormous, great big chunk of stuff about how Agatha, much beloved, wrote her books. And I, for one, found it quite hard going.
I don't really know what John was trying to achieve.
Well, I read in the preface that the person who wrote the foreword said that he'd met John Curran somewhere like Boston, where John had travelled all the way from the UK to see an Agatha Christie play. So he was obviously quite a super fan. It's forensic. I mean, if you are interested in the minutiae of how she wrote her books, then I think it is probably quite fascinating. But you would have to be pretty dedicated, I think, to get through it.
I agree. It is sort of almost impenetrable.
I think so.
As a book. I think it's a reference book.
Yeah.
That if for example you have read every Agatha under the sun, of which there are quite a few.
Yes, I've got quite a few statistics.
How many go?
Yes, I googled actually, because I think the book is how did she do it?
Yeah.
How did she pull it off? So what did she pull off? 66 detective novels, 14 short story collections, 6 romances under the name Mary Westmacott that I didn't know about.
No, I didn't know that.
She had 6 rejections. That makes me feel good.
Yeah.
How many did you have?
Oh, quite a few.
Me too. Quite a few.
I actually lost count.
Yeah, 6 made me feel very good, but then when I got to the 2 billion copies sold, that didn't make me feel very good, to be honest. My good feeling then cooled.
Waned.
103 languages.
Wow, yeah.
I didn't know there were 103 languages. And she is third behind Shakespeare and the Bible in the most read books.
Yeah.
Well, in which case, there's probably a massive market.
Yes.
For this,
I think I chose it because I just finished watching The Pale Horse on BBC, which I thought was amazing. Pale Horse, Agatha Christie book, with that very sexy man, Rufus Sewell. Very handsome man, yes. And I suddenly thought, I'd love to just know more about Agatha Christie, and I saw this was coming out. It's not as sexy as Rufus Sewell, I have to be honest. I mean, do you want me to? Would you want to read us the blurb?
Read it?
Take us through the.
I'm very clever in my glasses.
Yeah, you are.
I like to wear glasses all the time. Writing over 100 books and plays in a career spanning more than 50 years, Agatha Christie had become the world's best-selling novelist by the time she died in 1976, a record she still holds. But how did she do it? Unearthed after her death were 73 private notebooks whose contents were to remain largely mysterious until John Curran began to decipher her almost unreadable handwriting. Only then did the treasure trove that they contained become fully apparent. Combined into one definitive volume, this fully revised and updated edition of the award-winning Agatha Christie's Secret Notebooks and Murder in the Making explores the techniques she used to surprise and entertain generations of readers. With a wealth of unpublished material, including early versions of 4 complete short stories, it gives new insight into the Queen of Crime's creative genius.
Well, they've sold that well, haven't they?
They have.
Yeah, because
I mean, it is a reference book, I think. That's the truth.
It is.
If you were making a film about Agatha Christie's life, you'd need to have this, right?
Yes, but the weird thing is,
but as a read...
Yeah, no, it's not a read. It's not a read.
You know...
So I worked out trying to read it. I worked out, okay...
I had to wear special glasses because it's awfully small print.
Yes, but the best way to read the book is to pick your favourite story, and then find the title, and then read up the notes. But even the best-selling one of all time, which was And Then There Were None.
Yes, And Then There Were None. 100 million.
100 million copies this book sold, which is extraordinary.
Yeah.
So you look it up, and then you've got 4 pages of notes, which are not really edifying in any way. They're just like, this is what she wrote.
But I mean, this is the thing.
It doesn't change your perspective on the book, or I mean, there are a couple of little tweaks where she said, "Oh, she might have done this or she might have done that," but it doesn't really shine a new light on 100 million.
Yes. How did she do it?
But the thing is, the question I have is, and the thing about a book is that it's a finished product. It's a show. It's a thing. Is there any value? I mean, do you need to know
how the person
about the mechanics? I mean, when my plumber comes to fix my shower, I'm not really interested in which widget or bit of thing goes where. I just want the shower to work, right?
You're
and this is the thing.
You are correct, but sometimes, if there are manuscripts with Shakespeare written, there aren't. The idea that Shakespeare had written little bits and pieces on the side of a finished script,
annotated
quite
stuff,
that's quite interesting. But what he's got here is sort of her fag packet notes.
Yeah,
that's not true, but I mean, the equivalent of. So she's got an idea and rejected it.
Yes.
She's got her notebook.
I mean, did we know whether she wanted the notebooks to be published?
I'm sure not.
Probably
I mean,
not.
one
I
thing.
wouldn't want mine to be published.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I think about the notes that I write when I write articles and stuff, if someone saw them, I'd be really embarrassed.
But the thing about this is they're not edifying.
No, they don't give you any insights.
They don't give you any insight at all. It was just, this was a plot idea that didn't go.
Yeah.
Or she had, in the one that I read, Then There Were the Nun, she had another couple of characters that she rejected. But there isn't any reason why she rejected them.
No.
Had you got the manuscript and she said, oh, do you know, so-and-so is not working, and you could see her taking...
Or personal things, like I was going to call the person such and such, but then I knew somebody who was called such and such and had to change it, or I based a character on a real person I knew what I really hated.
Or I met someone and they said...
Those sort of personal stories.
No, there's none of that there at all. It's basically verbatim her... It's very dry. It's verbatim her notebooks. So I can understand if you were a massive Agatha Christie fan, like obsessive, like John clearly is...
Yes.
Then this is exciting. But I think in the word of advertising, sell the sizzle, not the sausage. I think that's what they've sold here.
Yes.
The
But I
sizzle
think
has been very
the weird
well
thing
sold
is, I think it sort of takes, because clearly the reason her books were so successful was because she sprinkled the magic on the ideas. She was, it's her personality, it's who she is,
imagination.
and her imagination. And what you're seeing here is the scaffolding, but without any of the stuff that actually makes it into a structure. And I think that it's actually quite disappointing. I found
because they were teach you how to write.
But the notes themselves, her notes, are quite dull. I mean, they're just like really boring. They're like shopping lists almost.
Because if you were going, if you wanted to be a writer, I don't write murder mysteries.
No.
But if I wanted to write a murder mystery, maybe I would buy this thinking it might give me some insights into how I could structure plot planning.
But there aren't any plot insights.
No, it doesn't, does it?
And that's what's so disappointing, because what I would like to know is, did she plot backwards or forwards?
Yeah.
Did she start with the corpse and then go backwards to work out who murdered it? Or did she start with the murderers and go forwards to the corpse?
Yeah.
That to me is...
Yes, I'd like to know that too. Because
how do you plot a book like... Because I've never written a crime thriller either.
No. There's no insight into where that came from.
Yeah.
Where that magic that made her this incredible... compulsive author.
The Agatha Christie, the thing that the actual murders themselves are most often very implausible.
Yes, they're sort of a sideshow.
But it doesn't really matter, because it's not about the murder. It's about the jigsaw puzzle. In fact, it's said here, the animated algebra, that people want to work out the puzzle of how it happened, and when Poirot or Miss Marple at the end in the drawing room with and then he picks it all apart, and of course he's noticed everything, the man that takes a cigarette here and the woman that lights it there, all these little details that you haven't noticed. But that's exciting.
But I think the thing about Christie, what's so brilliant about it, is her characterizations. The characters that she creates are just brilliant and fascinating, and you're interested you're only really interested in the mystery because you're interested in them.
Yes, exactly.
Without them, it's not that interesting a mystery.
It's just much more interested in the character, the dynamic between all the characters. That's what she enjoyed. Clearly.
And the motives and all of that kind of stuff.
But there obviously is the whodunit element in it, which is fascinating.
Well, that's the fun part.
It's like the Cluedo.
But I would like to know. I'd like to know, because when you plot your book, how do you plot it?
Well, it depends which one I'm doing, but mostly they're very heavily plotted and on cards.
Yeah, you do cards,
I
don't
do
you?
cards.
So
yeah.
cards of what? Every chapter,
Every chapter.
character.
Well, it depends. With my last novel, I did
Which was
The Witches of St. Petersburg. I did a beat sheet.
The Witches of St. Petersburg.
Yes,
Very
I loved
good.
that one, by the way.
In case you want to get a
So
copy.
I did a beat sheet. So every single beat of the book was worked out in a very detailed way. So that because there's nothing more boring than turning up, or frightening actually, turning up on a Monday morning
And not knowing what you're going to
not
write.
knowing what you're going to write. And so it's all in the preparation. But with obviously the Babylon books, they were all on cards, but they had stories, and then they were back referenced. So boring. Back referenced
It's not,
to lots of interviews and things.
Yeah.
So the Babylon books were forensic in their planning. But it wasn't a linear process. If I'm doing a novel, it's linear. But also, you can overplan, as you know.
Because I don't plan.
Yeah, I
so
bet you
I
don't,
do
yeah.
a very
Do you just sit
different-
down and write?
I know where I'm going. I know the outline, more or less. I know the idea, the themes.
Yeah.
And then I just go with my instincts. So
And
I
they
do.
talk to you. They talk to you.
Well, I sit there on a Monday morning, just like you've
Yeah.
said, thinking, okay, what am I going to write?
Yeah.
Whereas I would love the security of having it all before me to know this is where I go next. I don't have that. I find it very hard to do that. So if I was going to do a murder mystery, I
Yeah.
would have to sit down and plot.
Of course, you must.
Which
but
is,
yeah.
the discipline of doing that is quite hard. I'd love to know how she did that. As you say, where do you start?
But you don't get that from this book.
you
that's
don't.
that's the
what
thing.
that's what I think you should
No,
be
you don't.
getting.
You
in
just
that book.
don't.
So he goes through every single book.
Yeah.
And Anna and the notes that go with it. Did she write notes for every single book?
Yes,
Yes,
more
but
or
they were
less.
awfully
Yeah.
boring.
But they were very
They're
boring.
awfully-
They were things like,
They're a shopping list.
they are literally shopping
With
lists.
lists of names
Yeah.
and characters.
Yeah.
Names and
I mean,
characters,
Characters crossed out.
Yeah.
You know.
But I think poor old John should have probably written a computer program, and that would have been better.
Yeah.
But
I feel very
I didn't see, because then they went on as one of my favourite books and was
Yeah.
in a very good
Yeah.
adaptation recently
Yeah.
on BBC, which was brilliant. And I was sort of
You looked up the bit for
I really did,
yeah.
yes. I was thinking, this is a book I know really well. And I read the notes on it, and it just sort of like, it was a bit meh. It's like,
Yeah.
it hasn't changed my perspective.
No.
She had different characters in it. So,
Yes.
they had the 12, and
So you, yeah. So,
she toyed with a couple of other
Yeah.
people, and that was really it.
But that's quite interesting. So therefore, if those are her notes, and we presume that those are the only notes she wrote, or maybe there were other notes, because her novels are very forensically
there was
planned.
an
So where's the rest of the
interesting.
plan,
There
is
was
what I'm
one
asking. Where is
interesting.
it?
There was
Is
one
it
interesting
in her
detail.
head?
Yeah.
There was one quite interesting detail in which he said that one of the difficulties with the notes was that she would lose them all the time. Of
course.
And she would this really resonates with me because I'm always losing notebooks.
Yeah.
I have literally 10 notebooks on the go at any
Yeah.
given time. It drives my husband insane because he never knows which one is which, and he can't understand how I can live with the fact that I've got 10 or 12 notebooks around the place which I'm writing something. But this is what she did.
Yeah.
So and quite often she would just open a notebook in the middle
Yes.
and just find a blank page and just start writing. So she had
Yes.
so she was a very unstructured, disorganized person.
And her novels are very structured novels.
No.
How weird, exactly.
Yes.
How fascinating.
Yeah.
That's an interesting.
So that is an
takeaway.
interesting
Yes.
point, I think, and there is some of that, but it's all sort of slightly lost among. I mean, I think it could have really benefited from a little bit of proper sort of editing, just to sort of bring out those interesting factors. And
He hasn't drawn any conclusions
No,
from his
no.
notes, which is.
I mean,
It's
it's
more like an
notebooks.
encyclopedia.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. So he hasn't. So he hasn't said. Then there were none. This is so. What we've learnt here is that Agatha did
No.
this. He hasn't. He's just given. He's just
Yes.
reproduced.
There's no analysis on his
Exactly.
part.
He's
Yeah.
reproduced the notebooks,
Yeah.
which makes it quite
Yeah.
dull. I mean, there is a couple of bits. Of
Yeah, and then he does, and he goes through sort of things that are wrong with the book and why they don't work and all that. But it's not a bad book. It's just not my kind of book.
I think if we were to talk
you know,
to an Agatha Christie fan, somebody like
they'd
be
yourself,
delighted.
Yeah.
they'd probably
Delighted.
be delighted because
Yeah.
I know that when I'm a massive fan of a writer,
Any
I
pearl.
want any little pearl, exactly any little
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
I'm sort of gripped
Yeah, I can
by.
understand that,
So
yeah.
actually, probably things that maybe aren't so interesting to us might be interesting to somebody who's really, really crazy about Agatha Christie.
you know, it's interesting. You know, readers, the people who read books, you can never quite predict what they're going to like, can you?
No, it's true.
Never.
I mean, you guys, when you do your books, and presumably sometimes, have you ever written a book that you thought was going to be an absolute, solid,
Oh, yeah.
slam dunk?
Yes.
And then, no. And then the one that you thought was a bit of a dud,
yes.
suddenly everyone's...
You just don't know. And if they did know, if people did know, then they'd all write to that
alchemy,
formula. Nobody knows.
No.
I mean, if I knew what the alchemy was, I would be a
sell
formulaic
it.
writer. I'd write that formula every time.
Yeah.
But you just don't know what the magic is. And sometimes you don't even know that you're spinning any magic and suddenly the book does really well. And then, as you say, vice versa.
Yeah.
But I think it's very hard for new authors to come onto the scene because there is the pressure, and editors or agents who are saying, if you do this, I can sell it. Actually, you, in order to be successful and to enjoy what you're doing, you have to do it from your heart. And otherwise, what you're doing is fake, and you're not going to enjoy it. I always say to anyone who asks me, if you love it, if you're doing it for the pleasure and the love of doing it, that'll sort of transport people. They'll all be carried on your sort of enthusiasm, but you have to really enjoy it yourself. For
And
other people
don't
to
plan
enjoy
or
it.
take notes.
Just don't plan or take notes. Just dive straight in. Just don't be fazed by the blank bit of paper on the Monday morning.
You're right.
Just put
I
on
need
some
the crypt
music.
sheet. I need the crypt sheet.
Yeah, isn't it funny though?
Yeah.
But I'd like to have known more. I think there are notebooks still to be found that have more information.
I agree
can't
with you.
believe it.
God,
was all in her
I
head.
just hope not, because I don't think I can get through another
It'll be
volume.
volume 2. More
Anyway,
notebooks
thank
have
you
been
both.
discovered.
That was very, very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.